And do it. There we
Yep.
go. We are a couple minutes live because that's the way I roll. And uh, I have a guest in here today, folks. So, Mr. Who, if you'd care to introduce yourself.
Hey guys, you probably know me from Cardinal streams when he wasn't busy with stuff. And
Okay.
last week, me and Rantori decided to do the live stream today because, well, I want to talk a bit about what's happening in China at the moment, and me and him get along pretty well.
We do. That we do.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, uh, Runner, you have a particular dog in this fight. Care to tell the crowd what it might be?
Yeah, I'm from the land down under.
Oh no, you don't say. I did not know that. Um, and, and is there any reason why you, as an Aussie, might be concerned about what China is doing here?
um, it not possibly the fact that the Chinese government's been buying up land. Well, not technically the Chinese government, but somewhere pretty close to it is buying up land in over yonder, over here.
Is it possible that they've been conducting military exercises that might affect you?
Uh, yeah, South China Sea is a little scary.
Oh wow. Um. Okay. Runner, because because I am off camera, I've got the pop up chat where I can
I
see
got
it
ya.
easiest. Yeah. So do bear with me a little bit if things get somewhat
Dicey.
strange. Yeah. Okay. So everybody can hear us. So yeah. I'm gonna put the quote unquote airsoft down because you can't see it today anyway. Um. Yeah. Silly things like building islands and parking military. What? I'm sorry, fishing vessels in other nations' exclusive territorial waters. And what else have they been up to? Just
Um,
that you know about.
they've been doing more propaganda campaigns and ramping up actual air aerial, trying to do aerial supremacy over Taiwan.
Yeah, I'm really worried about Taiwan,
Tyrone.
and Taiwan and Hong Kong. But
Tyrone independence.
I don't want to hear about it. All right. Uh, okay. Trolls brought up an interesting point. We'll get to it in a minute. Um, well, actually, let's go there now. You remember the great toilet paper crisis of last year? Um,
Oh
could
god.
you could you clue the viewers in on the history of this, because apparently that did start down there?
Yeah, there was a rumor going on that 80% of our toilet paper came from China. So everyone bought up toilet paper.
Well, okay. Why would why would everybody be buying up toilet paper
Because
seemingly
of
for no reason?
because they thought there'll be very little toilet paper left in a couple of months.
Uh, okay, so for the sake of the audience, I'm going to refresh Runner's memory here a bit. Is it possible that part of the rumor was that China would stop all exports and that might affect supply chain? It,
Ah, shit, yeah, that's right. Completely
Um,
forgot about
yeah. Well, yeah, it was kind of it was the domino in the mess that we're still cleaning up.
that. Yeah.
And here's Troll mentioning that he's more concerned about the fiscal invasion that's been happening. Um, well, honestly, Runner, have you been seeing any of that sort of thing in Australia, or is that mostly U.S. and Canada?
Um, there's 2 million ethnic foreign-born Chinese people over here. If
Mm-hmm.
that's what he's talking about.
Well, here in the U.S., we're talking about how China owns so much property, and by property I mean real estate and intellectual properties. Intellectual properties, I believe. Basically copyrights, um, and that they're using that for a kind of stealth invasion, right? Um, Not that that's really how it works, but that could create a lot of problems, especially you buy a 10,000 acre ranch in Montana, let's say, and you very very quietly, uh, well, or very very loudly, who cares? Um, Cut a new road through that ranch that just happens to be about, let's say, 120 feet wide and is reasonably flat and hard. The sort of road that certain military aircraft could easily land on.
I gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. But if nothing else, you could create a lot of trouble. Just you rent out an apartment in downtown Los Angeles, and God knows what you're doing in there because your landlord doesn't have too many rights to inspect the property. Um, uh, Trolls pointing out foreign entities are buying anything under 10 acres and also buying big tracts out west. So there we, there you go. Um, Up in Canada, Canadians are are saying that China bought this just ginormous piece of real estate, uh, about the size of a county, really. Uh, that they're doing actual military exercises with Justin's knowledge and assistance. Um, I really,
Fuck.
really hope that, yeah, I really, really hope that that's either hyperbolic exaggeration or outright lying, either of which could be true because little tiny secret. I am an American. I live in the United States. I live just outside of Reno, but I'm a Canadian citizen.
What?
Yeah, my grandmother never actually got her U.S. citizenship. She married an American, but she never bothered with getting U.S. citizenship. So my mother is Canadian, which means I'm a Canadian. I'm also paying like 1/100th the taxes that a normal Canadian would be paying. But
I getcha.
yeah, I'm a actual. I didn't even notice until about 2 years ago. Oh, no, 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 4 years ago, um, when Canada took a big chunk out of my inheritance from my grandmother, who I got the citizenship through. I was like, wait, what? Oh yeah, you're a Canadian citizen. You have to pay these Canadian taxes. Oh, okay. I'm okay with that. Of course, a lot of things were different 4 years ago. Um,
So you technically have dual citizenship.
Not even technically, it is a full on legal dual citizenship status. I could
I get ya.
All I have to do is walk into any Canadian embassy, say I am a citizen. I've never had a passport. I want my passport and I want it before I walk out. and I will I will have it in the mail in about 10 to 14 days.
Ah,
Um, you and Troll have a common interest. Can you see the chat,
I
Runner?
can see the chat clearly.
Good. Yeah. Troll was saying, I was looking at 160 acres in Nevada, and those tracks are useless for anything but rocks. Um, and I really, I want to beat the two of you with a dry noodle. If you're willing to dig, believe me, they're really valuable. And there's places out there that your government will actually give you money if you're willing to actually invest in some degree of a real development. You can't just say, well, I'll take a mobile home out there, drop it, and say that this is now my homestead. They want you to do something with it of value to the state. But if you're willing to put that kind of investment in, they will give you the money. They will. You still have to pay property tax, but they will something like $500,000 in the U.S. if you will start something like a farm or a factory or um, a
Just
mine.
anything.
Almost, almost
Yeah.
anything. You can't start an artists commune up in northern Australia and say, "Well, this is what I'm doing," because they will say no. Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll say yes, but generally speaking, no. They will not let you have the money for that.
There's a
Um,
obscure. There's actually an
Go ahead.
obscure right far leaning anarcho Australian YouTuber I watch, and he got a property from his uncle who passed away. He's
Good
living
for
up
him.
there and doing videos, making YouTube videos there because it's cheaper.
What makes it cheaper up there?
Because he used to live in the city.
Okay, I got you. How
Yeah.
far away from the city is he?
I don't know. He didn't specify that.
Well, if it's
It's probably
anything
pretty
over,
far with the footage he's seen. The
okay,
footage
so
he had.
if it's anything over a 4 hour one way drive to the nearest city, yeah, now you're talking a little bit on the long side.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're within about a 4 hour one way drive from the nearest city, you go into the town, you get supplies once or twice a month, you come back, and well, you stay in town overnight, and then you drive back. I did that when I was in Colorado. Oh my God, that was an awesome time. I wish I was still there. Ah, and my only job, because I was paid to live there, my only job once a month, or once a day, I had to go around to this list of chores that I had to do, like make sure that the pumps are running, make sure that the generators were operating properly, and the generator, there was a backup diesel generator, but the real generators were the solar panels. Well, all I have to do is turn on the lights. I'll know if those are working or not. Um, and it was a list of 6. Oh, I did have to drive the company truck at least a mile every day. They didn't care what I did with it, but I had to drive it at least a mile every day, and that was it. I was living there for free, and I had a second job. So, guess whose truck I used to go to my 9 to 5 job?
The companies.
Uh, yeah,
Ah.
um, yeah. My 9 to 5 job was like a half hour away. So that's well with it. I stopped for gas. I could have gotten the full mile a day. They didn't really care about if it was actually a mile. They cared if at the end of the month the record showed that I drove 28 to 35 miles. That's what they wanted to see.
Ah,
Yeah, and I'd usually go into town once a week, stay overnight, and then come back. For the Well, that was like that'd be Friday or Saturday night. No, that was Thursday nights. Never mind. Um, and I do some playing in town with some friends. Um, damn it, I missed that place. I hate you and your friend. I hate your friend more. Um,
yeah,
anyway, so yeah, if you're willing to invest the money in developing to something that they want to do, they basically give you the money. Um, you you have to pay it back, but you pay it. Well, the deal I was working under, they gave them the money and gave them like 40 years to pay off the loan. Um, they could have paid that loan off with me paying rent on that piece of shit dirt. Um, $30 a month.
yeah.
That's all that rent would have been worth.
I gotta find if there's any opals or anything on the land around here. Probably isn't, but it's good to check.
You've seen Star Wars 4 New Hope, right?
Yeah,
So you're
moisture
familiar with the
farming.
large moisture farming. So great. Um, that sort of setup would have been set up under the same kind of conditions. The Lars family is farming moisture out on this way the hell out nowhere piece of shit dirt, and that water is then being shipped into the city where it's needed. So basically, we'll King's X because you're actually doing something for us that we need.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with opals, by the way.
Oh, they're like gemstones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, are they precious or semi-precious? Or well,
I
how
think
are they
this.
formed? I guess I should say.
I think they're semi-precious from memory. It's been a while since I looked at opal farming,
It's referred
but
to as
it's
farming.
yeah, or opal mining, one of the two.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you don't have to mine. I mean, you could actually farm, or I know that there was one city down in I want to say it's Louisiana, that was built on one of these kinds of contracts back in the 30s or 40s, and the the city was abandoned because of World War II. But all they really did, they put in one apartment building, one office building, and one factory. And the deal at the time was, you build us the start of a city. Around it, we can build a huge city, and then the the federal government will get a lot of money back in all these taxes and all these other things. So, going back to that farm idea, you drop a mobile home out there and say, yes, this is the homestead, but I'm going to be using this to start building up towards a small city, and they'll turn around and say, well, wait a second, okay, what's the city's income going to be? But you address those issues, and man, you're in like Flynn. Um, I'm pretty sure wood chips would be out of the question for you, right,
Yeah,
Runner?
probably.
Probably.
Yeah, were we
All right.
supposed to be talking about China?
Are we? We are indeed. So let's go back to that subject. Um, you, you're you guys are kind of behind an eight ball because what what does Australia import versus export? I guess is where we should start that question.
We we import a lot from China, like most of the world, but due to more, we've been branching out economically about to other nations like Indonesia, Japan, India, a bunch of other ones, building a little fuck you coalition of China. Fuck you, China coalition.
Okay. Okay. Um. Uh. So you import a lot from China. What happens if they actually do close those imports? How fucked are you guys?
We barely have infrastructure, which it's just we're probably gonna rebuild our infrastructure and probably import our stuff somewhere else while we slowly rebuild our infrastructure.
Oh, excuse me. Um. Well, let's. I mean, let's go back to toilet paper here for a second. I know most paper is actually made from eucalyptus trees, and
Yes, it
eucalyptus
is.
trees are native to Australia. So, how hard would it be for you to rebuild your literally your toilet paper industry?
Uh, well, 80% of our toilet paper actually comes from here natively, so that'll be pretty easy to rebuild.
Uh, what about your other manufacturing for needful civilian use, like cars or raw steel or whatever? I mean, how far behind the eight ball are you really?
We closed lots of our factories in the car industry like 2014, 2015, roughly, from memory.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Most of your factories. That's so. Is Australia manufacturing any cars?
Fairly little from memory.
Solar panels?
We're doing a bit of that from memory. It's just most of our industries come from mining.
Okay, well that's a good place to start from at least, because you don't have to. Well, no. I guess I should back up a second. What kind of mining?
Lithium, steel, bunch of other gemstones, just a whole list of iron ores and other stuff over here.
So would you have to start importing copper, aluminum, silver?
We probably have. We will probably. It's probably in some deposit over here, but we need to probably import some of it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's really not an awesome place to start from.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as some countries I could name. Are you listening, Joe Biden? Um,
Wake up, Joe
yeah,
Biden. Wake up.
say again.
Wake up, Joe Biden. Wake up. You probably don't get the reference.
No, Sleepy Joe.
Yeah.
I'm well aware. Um, but yeah. And you know that list was not arbitrary. You can use silver for a lot of industrial applications. You've heard of the Trinity Project?
No.
That was the first nuclear bomb, the
Ah.
one that was detonated over the United States to see if this damn thing will even work.
Ah, that's right. And Trinomite or something. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Um, the gadget is what it had been called for a couple of years before that. Um, that was developed at Los Alamos, uh, uh, facility. And because World War II is just raging like a tornado, all of the copper had been declared national defense priority. Well, they needed like 60 million tons or whatever of copper for this superconductor to build the bomb, and without revealing that there's something going on, they couldn't get the copper, so they took silver instead to build the superconductors to uh, to build the bomb.
Ah,
Yeah, uh, tritium. I can't pronounce that word either. Don't worry about it. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, silver is industrially valuable. Um, there's steel and copper are obviously they have their values. Um, so kind of where I'm going with this, just play pretend for a second that Australia finally snaps one day and says, you know what, oh y'all, our borders are closed, and if we see your ships in our water, we'll blow them out of the water. If we see your planes over our territories, we'll blow them out of the air. Um, we are now Fortress Australia. How long would it take you guys to get back up and running to full production to at least be able to hold this hypothetical Fortress Australia?
40 to 60 years, roughly.
Oh,
Yeah. When I said our infrastructure barely exists, I wasn't kidding.
you were not kidding at all.
Yeah,
Wow.
I, I've talked to a dude from my work, and he told me about this interview on the radio about this guy whose entire job is to dismantle Australian infrastructure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this interview as if you can.
Yeah, it was basically, from what I gathered from hearing about it, it's basically it'll be really difficult to rebuild Australian infrastructure if don't have you have barely anything to start off to begin with.
Okay. So is he talking about tearing down factories, or is he talking about ripping out roads or blowing up
Mostly
bridges?
tearing down factories.
Okay. Um, these factories that he's tearing down, it would take 40 years to replace them.
It really depends on the on the how willing the Australian government is about actually rebuilding Australian infrastructure.
All right, with the current government, you're saying about 30 years.
Yeah. Well, what I mean by current government, I mean most of our
Uh-oh. Yeah, runner, you cut out. Most of our something is all I heard. Ladies and gentlemen, runner has been having some technical issues with his internet, so he might be cutting out here in a second. But I'll bring him back as soon as he's on. Um, until he interrupts me, I'll just keep going. Um, Australia is actually a pretty good object lesson of what not to achieve or to aspire to. And unfortunately, the U.S. is not only brazenly ignoring this lesson, it seems like some sectors of our society are leaning into it. They they want us to fail. So, and this has been going on since the Clinton administration. Back when I thought, oh, this is so wonderful. Well, you know, we'll have this international. We'll have the what is it? The Archways to Peace for the war I joined the military to get into, but okay. Um, and yeah, yeah. Now I'm really seeing how bad an idea that was. Um, uh, Troll is saying we have 100 years of standing empty structures, mostly dangerous and need of demolition. I kind of dispute that, Troll. Most of those buildings could be rehabilitated if we were willing to invest in rehabilitating them. Some of them, obviously, yeah, are gone and need to be torn down. But yeah, if we were willing to rebuild or refurbish in most cases, refurbish and renovate. There's one in particular. It's car factory in Detroit shut down not actually too long ago. If we were willing to just clean the place up, we could have a nice modern car factory or munitions factory or tank factory online in about 2 weeks. Maybe okay. So longer than that. Right now, it's still in great condition if we literally just clean the trash and maybe the graffiti out. We could turn it into a parking garage in 30 hours, 40 hours of actually working. Ow. Sorry, guys. I just popped my neck. I'm going to check Discord real quick. No, he's really cut out, so but he'll be back in a minute. And also Troy, I saw that really one really long highway. I'm going to ask him when he comes back because it sounds kind of like maybe that's the concept behind what is it, the National Defense and Interstate Highway Act, which is the source of the butt of a few jokes about Hawaii. Um, but yeah, we could rebuild in not very long. Obviously, Runner was starting to get into the question of what what the state, what kind of state would be needed to get into rebuilding this. I'm hoping he's going to address that as soon as he comes back in. Uh, I'm Troll says I'm East Coast. I'm not speaking of the fixable structures. I'm talking old mill ponds, textile shops, all sorts of turn of the last century stuff. Yeah, actually, there's some truth to that. Um, I grew up in California. I'm familiar with Sutter's Mill, um, and a lot of these places are unique fixer-upper opportunities at the burn it down and start over again level. Um, a few years ago, I was at a site where we some friends of mine want to do some industrial work involving. Well, what they wanted to do was get a 1840s, I think it was, era textile weaving equipment for display purposes only, and this was the sort of stuff that was ordered out of um, ordered removed from all factories by the 19 teens at least. Unfortunately, their bid failed, so they didn't. It didn't really go anywhere. But yeah, I can see how some of that equipment it's historically valuable, but it's literally dangerous and should never ever be allowed to be used again. Uh, Also, the tower, water tower, 100-year-old water tower. Um, there's all of this kind of equipment would have to just be rounded up and hauled off, and that's just kind of it. Okay, Runner's telling me he needs a minute. He's probably resetting his internet. Um, Scrap it and turn it into new equipment. Um, Especially something like this water tower that Troll's talking about that's in danger of falling on an overpass. Even if the overpass itself is in danger of falling or collapsing or whatever, um, you got to get that tower out of there. That's a public safety issue. Um, at least the weaving loom that I was talking about, you could pack it into a corner of a warehouse and forget about it for, I think it was 80 years before the city of New York mysteriously discovered that they owned the building, and that's why it hadn't been collecting any taxes for 80 years. And all of a sudden wanted to get rid of it, start collecting taxes again. Gee, what a thought. City of New York handling of that case is also a great example of what not to do. Moving moving on. That's going to be a rant for another day. A day when we've raised, the $10 million that my friend wanted to raise for the project. Um, yeah, I don't have the ding that says somebody's knocking at the door yet. So let's see. I'm gonna check something, guys, because there's a couple of specific people that I invited and have not shown up yet. And I don't know if maybe they didn't get it or they're, well, no indication that they got it. That's a shame. Because one in particular I know is a big China basher. He's, he bashes China like I bash Iran, guys. And check that. Okay. Here we go. Um, I'm going to lean into this a whole lot. Great Trolls is talking about this water tower here. It's 100 years old. It's a public safety hazard, and it was a railroad fill station. Now, for those of you that have watched the old Western movies, you're familiar with the fact that the trains were steam powered, generally speaking. There was one as late, I think, as the 1960s, but by the start of World War One, the steam powered trains were basically out of service. Um, there's no need for this uh, train water station except for the historic value, and there's every reason on earth to tear this one down. And if you really want to go there, build an exact working replica. And I can even think of exactly where it's a skunk train in California. And then you could go back and say, okay, well, this is at the water tower, and this is how they worked, and this is how the uh, God damn it, the water pumps, the windmills that pumped the water, that filled the tank, that filled the train worked, and then you could rebuild these everywhere if you wanted. Matter of fact, that's gonna lean into a future rant about American infrastructure. Maybe I'll get into it with Runner a little bit. Um, there's no reason to keep that tower. He's right. Um, there's a lot of this place in New York that I happen to know a little bit about. It was 4 brick walls, and the roof had apparently collapsed. That's what finally got the city of New York to finally realize that who owned the property and why it hadn't been collecting taxes for 80 years. And all of a sudden, they're trying to get rid of it. And they sold it for like $100,000 in some down, basically imploded section of, I think it was Brooklyn. Um, there's a lot of those sorts of places, but this New York building, also had four very good brick walls, and it would take maybe a $500,000. Oh no. Okay, it would take maybe a $500,000 to rebuild this brick building into a new factory. Um, it would have been that simple. When I was down in Louisiana a few years ago, there was a particular building that I would drive by about twice a day, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, geez, that building would be very easy to rebuild. Now, somebody had an eye on the building because it started getting renovated uh, about a month before, or excuse me, a month after I left. I don't know what really became of the building, but it would have been very easy. All right, so Runner has let me know, and I'm going to give him his internet is out, and I think he actually contacted me on his cell phone because he didn't, because he's basically he sent two messages. So that sucks. Um, I'm going to speculate on what he was going to say. Um, he was talking about it taking 30 to 40 years to rebuild Australia's infrastructure. Um, but that's based on who's currently in power and their willingness to do what it takes to rebuild. I'm going to speculate that you could get my hypothetical fortress, Australia, oh, excuse me, rebuilt in as little as 10 years, minus the Atlantic and Pacific walls. If you had a government that was willing to actually say, okay, we need uh, 500 factories producing food, let's say. We need a 500,000 acres of rice farm and 1,000,000 acres of eucalyptus farm or groves and 80. Oh, wait. We've got,
I found the
okay,
problem.
good.
I checked the motor and the cord was fell out of it again. It was slowly inching out of it again, so I just whacked it back in.
Get a bigger hammer. Well, you're going to have to sit here and correct me on everything because I was speculating on what you were about to say when you cut out. So, all right, you were saying that the government in power, you think it will take 30 to 40 years to rebuild. Um, pray, continue.
Yeah, the problem with the Australian government is there's too many there's too many middle children of history in it, if you get my meaning.
Yeah, kind of. Uh,
Yeah,
but they got all of the bad lessons of the older child and all of the bad lessons of the younger child, the boomers and the Gen
Zoomers.
Ys,
Yeah,
Zoomers, and didn't learn a goddamn thing for themselves, right?
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But most of them are
Guess who's in
boomers.
that age?
You are.
Guess who's in that? Yeah, yeah, I'm in that age group. We're starting to wise up a little bit, but the problem is my generation is divided against each other pretty
Yeah.
ugly. There's the lean right group like myself, or the right wing group, and then there's the left wing like alt left weirdo wackos that still think that the police nanny state is the way to go.
Ah. Look at my
My
country.
sisters, huh?
We're
What?
slowly becoming. Look at my country. Some of our
Yeah,
states are slowly becoming police states, and tell them, and yeah, that's not going too well.
yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't work. Um, okay, so speculate with me. Um, Assume that you got a new government that said, you know what, our security and our survival depends on rebuilding and uh, building this fortress Australia. Um, how long do you think it would really take?
A while because we gotta shift our entire culture to be less to be less reliant on others, to be more reliant on ourselves because most of our mining is actually done by a few foreign companies now, by a
Ooh,
few big ones. There's still a lot of
oh no. Test. Okay, so I'm here. Runner, whack it again. Okay. I hate dead air, so I'm gonna talk until he interrupts me. Um, yeah, he's gonna very good point. If the companies are owned by foreign entities, without some really obscenely draconian measures, getting control of those mines is going to be a uh, a very difficult proposition. Um, it's happened before several times, and it always turns out bad. For those of you that are following the news, the literal ocean is on fire. The literal ocean is on fire because something like 60 years ago, uh, Mexico took control of the petrochemical companies. Whether they did it by buyout or declaration doesn't matter. Um, Now the government owns the oil industry, and the company that they put together to manage this company or this industry literally had an oil line break at the bottom of the, I think it's Pacific Ocean, that has turned into a raging oil fire in the middle of the ocean. Did I just say those words together in one sentence? Um, that's the Pemex company, by the way. Um, in I mean, even here in the United States, we had a huge scandal with basically a government corporation that was supposed to observe and monitor the oil and mining industry. Uh, and everything was going along perfectly until Deepwater Horizon caught fire. So, yeah, government running corporations is almost always a failure. I defy any of you to give me an example that has not turned out badly one way or another. Even just oversight MMS, Mining and Minerals Service, I believe was the proper title. It didn't work out so hot. It usually works out really, really well when it's uh, private and public working together towards a common goal. Um, Unfortunately, that also sounds like a certain politician from the 1930s. So we have to be careful walking down that road as well. Make sure that we don't start buying up cattle cars for public purposes. um, Transparency is absolutely a key, and independent government oversight is absolutely critical in that regard. Um, so we're at 45 minutes. Okay. Um, no, I didn't want to do that. And back into it. Okay, so rebuilding, America rebuilding its infrastructure is bad enough shape. And here's Renner talking about the very mines themselves being owned from outside the country. That's going to prove very difficult to recover. And even assuming that the entire public says, that every single Australian with any legitimate say in the way the government is run says, no, 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 we need to do this and we need to do it now. We need to have done it 6 months ago. Even then, it's going to take at least about 5 years just to regain control of the industries themselves. Ah, God, that sucks. Um, he's not here to defend himself, or defend his nation. So my understanding is also that Australia has very, very limited oil reserves. They have to import basically everything as far as that goes. They have no effective reserves. Everything is imported. Okay, here we go. Add to
Alright,
stream. We need you to answer a question. And
alright.
this is what is Australia's oil deposits right now look like?
They're looking pretty alright.
Oh, the, now this is deposits, not oil that's ready to use, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Really? I
yeah.
stand vastly corrected. Um, so if you wanted to, you could cut off the flow of oil into the country. You'd be fine for 100 years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, DM Foss says bureaucracy stifles innovation and fosters waste and graft. And oh boy, is he right. Um, okay, well, I stand vastly corrected on that. Uh, um, that idea about uh, the state giving you the money was kind of tied to rebuilding the energy reserves. Uh, but I guess that's not going to be necessary for about 100 years. You're in a
Yeah,
bad, bad spot.
we're wasting our money on solar, sadly.
On what?
Solar.
Oh no. Solar is not a waste of money. If you use it correctly, you probably are not using it correctly. But we can talk about that deeply later. Um, Oh, excuse me. I gotta move. My butt hurts. All right. So, what other obstructions to rebuilding do you see? Obviously, there's public sentiment. Let's pretend, for the sake of argument, that all public sentiment went away somehow. How
Yeah.
hard? How big a battle are we looking at?
Uh, a bit big
Well,
from
okay.
memory.
Give
Remember,
me
this is from yeah,
uh,
it's from memory.
okay. No, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Um, for those of you that didn't get it earlier, um, Runner's internet is a little iffy, so he's basically got to focus only on a live stream right now. He can't have his notes open. Um, assume for the sake of argument that the people said we need to rebuild and we need to rebuild now, and we're willing to do whatever it takes. We're willing to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, breaking rocks if it comes to that. We're willing to live out of tents. We're willing to this, that, and the other thing. Um, how long? How
Oh,
many years?
probably 10 to 15, roughly.
Nice. I was in a pretty good ballpark. Um, now, how
Yeah.
long do you think? Yeah,
Yeah. After your last question, let's go back to the whole China thing because I want to talk about a few things what's been happening internally in China right now.
please do.
Yeah.
So, what what uh, what's coming to mind?
I thought you were gonna ask your last question about Australia first.
Let's skip Australia. I
Alright.
can talk to you about that later.
Alright. Got ya. Um. Have you heard about the mass stabbings that happened in China recently?
The stabbings.
Yes, the stabbings.
There's been such a up spike that it's treated as a new thing.
Um. It's actually been a fairly recent thing, yeah. But most of the stabbings are caused by not what you think, not like usual robberies and stuff. It's more caused like how schools shootings are caused in America, and well, mass shootings in general.
Oh, really? You mean taking
Yeah.
guns away from people didn't stop murder?
Yes,
But go
didn't
on.
stop murder.
But pray continue for the for the audience and for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have an example that you could show us?
Well, I can't link it right now. I'll link it later due to internet,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I can list a few. There's one where a teacher in a university stabbed another teacher because that teacher stole the credit for what the teacher did. And the teacher
Oh,
what got stabbed was a party official.
oh, so you're talking about a workplace shoot? I mean stabbing.
Yeah.
Pray continue. Again, everybody runner's got to work from memories here, so work with him. But
Oh,
pray continue. Tell me more.
there's another one. A Somebody lost their job. Well, usually happens in China. People lose their jobs and a bunch of other stuff, and there've been a lot of uptick of children getting stabbed.
You mean Children being I mean, stabbed is a common thing.
Yep,
Wow, who would have ever thought of something like that?
and it's not child on child stabbing either. It's adult on child stabbing. Try to word
You
it the
mean like
best I can.
yes, no, you might, you couldn't possibly mean something like, I don't know, the Stockton shooting, which you're too young to even remember, and I'm barely old enough to remember.
I honestly don't
Um,
know what that is. You have
yeah,
to enlighten me.
um, yes, back in 1982 or three, so obviously before you were born, um, there was a particularly shocking shooting down in Stockton, California. Um, a man walked up to a schoolyard and opened fire right
Ah,
through the fence. Um, Now, I'm going to skip some of the uh, subordinate claims. Well, I'll just go over it. But I'm not saying these claims are true. I'm saying these are claims that were made and have never actually been disproven. First of all, the man was supposedly a Vietnam vet, and the children were supposedly primarily Hmong, which the Hmong is a tribe in the Vietnam um, in the well, within the nation. The Hmong were very closely tied to the United States. So as we're pulling out of Vietnam, most of the people we evacuated out of there were Hmong families.
Vietnamese.
But no, actually, Hmong is one tribe. Vietnamese is another. Most
Ah,
people don't
okay.
know that. Yeah, even though they're within the same nation, they're two very, very different people, and they don't like each other very much.
Yeah.
There's a history to that, and I've actually seen or read a little bit of it. Short version is this guy supposedly his motivation was hatred of Vietnamese. Um, so now you're talking about in China uh, stabbing children, kind of like somebody, kind of like the Stockton case. Are you telling me this is a thing?
Yeah, it's what happens when you take away someone's freedom of speech and they can't vent about the government.
I'm sorry. Keep going. What was it he was so upset about?
From memory, the guy was ups. Was there there wasn't any actual proper reason that I remember.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, nothing you can do about that.
yeah.
Um,
I've been also been watching a few the YouTube videos I came across while I talked about this. The guy who was talking about, he's from South Africa and lived in China for a decade.
okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that's where I'm
so
getting my information from.
is this the guy that flat out said all Chinese are racist?
I don't know which one you're talking about, but probably. And that's
All
pretty
right, fair enough.
true. All Asians are racist.
Yes, actually,
Yes.
they're worst towards each other. How China has not gone into full on uh, um,
Ethnic civil war.
ethnic, well, ethnic ethnic genocide. Actually, what the reason is that the various rulers of China have put a stop to the fighting using the armies over time.
Yup.
Um, uh, That's the only reason is they're more afraid of the armies coming in and killing literally everybody than they are hateful of each other. Um, that's also part of the Hmong Vietnamese um, dispute.
Ah,
Um, yeah, a genocide 500 years ago, I believe it was, that resulted in the. Well, anyway, that's a tangent. Um, could you think of perhaps any other intra racial disputes along those lines?
intra-racial disputes. Hmm.
Yes.
No, not really. The only close thing I can think about is English, the Welsh, Scots, and a bunch of other
I
fucking everything from north, everything north of fucking Europe hating the shit out of each other. But I don't know if that counts.
no, I actually was focusing on China in particular.
Ah, I got ya.
Um, the Uyghurs, yeah,
Oh
is a
yeah,
relatively small. Yeah,
I
you
got
want to
a
follow that line?
yeah, I got you now. Besides, there's more interesting things coming out of there. They've been using secret codes to communicate with each other.
What?
They've been using secret codes to communicate with each other.
Okay, who is they in particular in this case?
The Uyghurs.
Okay, they use a secret code to communicate. Go on.
They use emojis to talk about how the government's taking away their children and loved ones and stuff. Loved ones and other
Okay.
family members.
Um,
I'll send you
were
the
you
video
aware?
later.
Okay. Yeah, well, we can come back to.
Yeah.
We can circle back, as they say
Oh,
in the White House.
and I've
Um,
just and I just figure out the major reason why my internet is so shit at the moment because it usually isn't during a live stream. It's because it's fucking raining. Of course it is.
oh, you're on satellite. Got it.
Yeah.
And this is winter in Australia.
Fucking yeah.
So when you build Runner Park, you're going to have to factor that in. Ah, all
No.
right.
The worst part
Huh?
is that I'm living in fucking Queensland and it's fucking wet up here. In fucking
Um,
north in the Northern Territory and Western Territory, it's fucking it's fucking dusty. In New South Wales, it's covered in fucking turds. In Victoria, it's covered with cunts. In Tasmania, they're fucking each other. They're fucking each other's sisters.
so you're telling me I need a plane ticket to Tasmania. Got it. Moving on.
Yeah,
Um,
you do that.
oh, shit. Did I say that out loud? Moving on. All right. So, well, in China, we're talking about, um, there's Taiwan, which is, really, it's an island off the coast of China that's always considered itself a totally separate country.
You mean
And
the
is,
true China?
well, no, actually, um, to any China. They've never really considered themselves part of China, and they've been resisting and resisting, like Ireland did, uh, uh, England, and later the UK. And this has actually been going on longer than Ireland resisting Britain. Ireland, the Irish fought for I think it was about 300 years. The Taiwanese have been fighting for 1,000 years.
Oh,
Is it?
really?
Oh yes. Yeah.
I know
Uh,
in Taiwan they have better. I don't want to say better because I don't know. Apparently, they have better relations with their ethnicities than mainland China.
really.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's also fear of the army or the the emperor's stepping. And at one time, Taiwan did have their own little emperor. The emperor saying
Ah.
either you people will get along or I will not let you. Um, I won't feed you. I won't clothe you. I won't be nice. You can,
Or it's
carrot
just,
and stick shit.
or it's just one of those things where it's like you're a different. We're different, but we're part of. But we're in some of the. But we're in the same tin roof, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, the Taiwan, they've actually apparently fait accompli the takeover of Hong Kong, which we have a mutual acquaintance from Discord who have you seen my designated decoy video?
Ah, don't remember it.
Well,
Probably haven't.
uh, obviously, I'm not going to talk too much in a live stream with the supreme overlords watching us, but I might know something about um, a certain boat that made landfall in Hong Kong um, in 2019.
Ah,
Oh, it could be that I know something about what was going on. Um,
the Iranians did it. That's what you're gonna say.
say, say again?
You're gonna say the Iranians did it, are you?
No. Oh no 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 no.
Ah, oh,
This
that's new.
this partic- this particular boat would have flown a British or possibly Chinese flag.
Ah,
Um. Oh yes. I. Well, they may have flown a Japanese flag just as a complete and total ruse. And if the Hong Kong police boarded that particular boat, which my understanding is they never got anywhere near, they would have found a strange assortment of British and local and possibly some American uh, crew. Not a big boat, but boy, did she float better after. Yeah. Moving on. So yeah, the Hong Kong really did fight. There's some beautiful, beautiful videos of Hong Kongers actually really beating the shit, in particular, out of one cop at Hong Kong Airport of all places. Like,
yeah.
yeah, welcome to Hong Kong, where we beat the crap out of a cop right here at the airport, and don't care if you watch.
Speaking. Or.
You need more coffee.
Yeah, I just came back from work. Well, wait, let me check the time. Okay, it's 3 a.m. I went to work
Ooh,
at 7 ish, came back around probably 10 ish, had a sleep, woke up, then did the live stream.
we thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'd like to go back to the Uyghurs for a minute. Um, are you aware that they're being put into camps?
yes, I am.
You aware of what's going on in those camps?
Um, there's a lot of rumors that I've heard.
They're not just rumors.
Yeah, with the
Uh,
prostitution and stuff.
oh, that's the nice. Uh, that those are the nice ones. Um,
Ooh,
yeah. If you ever need a kidney, definitely
yeah.
check to
I
see
think
where it
everyone
came
knew.
from.
Uh, I think everyone kind of knows about that one.
Um,
And I
it's
rather
it's actually,
one,
huh?
and I
Go ahead.
rather a kidney from a Fongoner, a person who practiced Fongon.
Oh God, you know,
They have apparently they have better organs than most Chinese people.
well,
Apparently,
actually, that's true. They have a better diet.
yeah,
It's part of the. It's part of the. Uh, it's part of the philosophy. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, vivisection should actually be considered a war crime, and it's not, and that's disgusting failure on the UN to. And the beauty of it too is that with that system, if you keep somebody locked up and controlled properly, I mean, you could harvest them for 2 and 3, 4 years. You know, a half a lung here, a kidney there. It's pretty. It's pretty disgusting, really, what they're doing. It finally collapses if you take the heart because everything else you sedate them, you can keep harvesting them forever, but if you take their heart, then now it's over.
Yeah.
It, this would, I mean, less than this was called a war crime after World War II. We as in the United States primarily, and specifically, hung people with malice aforethought using uh, nooses that were too short to do the job. And we're just, with China, we're just like, oh, well, that's a cultural thing. What? It's a what? Australia's got its bad acts. Those are like 150 years ago. America's got its bad acts. The worst of those were just before I was born. Um, but holy shit, it's
I'm
going on right here and now in China, and we're just all turning a blind eye. Oh, it's a cultural thing. Wow,
remember only
bitch.
the white man can do bad.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Um, I didn't literally join the military because not white men were doing actually worse in some ways than that. Um, well, no, that's not fair. Rwanda had ended by the time I got into the service, and I think it had ended by the time I could get in the service. But
I remember you telling me that you were in Bosnia.
no, I was not. I joined to go to Bosnia. Um, I did not get to go, and I'm pissed about that. My partner actually, fixed bayonets. She was in Bosnia, and I stand corrected. She got a bronze star, not a silver star, with a V for something that happened while she was there. Um,
Ah,
Not going to get into it too much here. Um, Pro tip:
gotcha.
if you're ever trying to sneak around a United States Marine Corps base by pretending to be lost, don't
Got you. Got ya.
don't do that.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Uh, Especially if there happens to be a personnel specialist. manning the checkpoints or the Overwatch at the time. Just don't do that. But moving on, yeah, the story that only white men can commit genocide is just that's disgusting. Every time I hear it. Oh, on a related note, how is uh Yank yeah, how is the Young Turks handling the genocide in China? Are they talking about that, or are they still pretending like no such thing exists?
I don't know. I don't watch the Young Turks.
Yeah, well, no, I'm being a nasty little faggot right now. Ooh,
I
I
got
said
ya.
that out yeah, I'm being an ass, and I don't care. Um, for the sake of the audience, the Young Turks as a channel pretends that the Armenian genocide didn't really happen. You know, there's literally photographs of them of the Turks, the Turkish army doing exactly that, but you know, no such thing ever happened. So whatever. Um, you know, it's kind of funny. China's in a bad spot themselves. All right, they mismanaged the country so badly the last what is it, 100 years? You said
Oh, last.
100.
Well, they had their 100th anniversary probably a couple of days ago. So
Okay.
100th, yeah.
Um,
Well, the no, I lie. It's a the anniversary is about the CCP Communist Party, not the proper country. So it's
well,
probably around 80 years roughly.
okay. Um,
80,
man,
70 roughly.
the they've mismanaged the country so badly for the last, let's be generous and say 3/4 of the century, 75 years, um, that they basically have no energy to work with. Um, yes, they have their steel exports. Um,
You know where they get their
they,
steel, their iron ore from?
um, I assume they produce that domestically.
No, they produced it steel domestically. You know where they get the iron ore from?
Australia?
Yeah, and they sell the steel back to, and they sell the shitty steel back to us. Fucking cunts.
Really?
Yeah,
You're joking. Oh my god. You're literally
you.
buying your own iron ore at twice the price.
Yeah, fucking, fucking government.
Well, we're buying their steel at twice the price too, so don't feel too bad.
Yeah.
Um, back in the 90s, there was a concept called the Archways to Peace, which went along the lines that two countries that do trade are not going to go to war, right? About a week after the article or the book was went to onto the store shelves, two countries that both had McDonald's and therefore did trade with one another, uh, well, one country delved into a civil war that is well, actually it's still going on. A little place you may have heard of called Yugoslavia.
Oh yes, Yugoslavia.
Yeah, you would have read about it in a history book because it didn't exist by the time you were born.
Um, Probably.
Maybe you were born by then.
I was born in the late 90s, and that's all I'm gonna say.
That's all you were going to say. So it technically existed for a couple of
Hello?
years. Yes.
Oh, were you talking to someone?
You did technically exist for a couple of years after you were born, but not very many.
Ah,
Um, Back then, the idea was that we ship, or you ship ore to China. China ships steel to the United States. We ship rice to China. They ship something else to you, and we'll all be these good buddies and friends, and we'll never ever. We won't get into any serious tiffs. Um, well, that's been disproven,
the
completely disproven.
the problem with Xi Jinping was like is is actually obsessed with a thing called historical nihilism, if you know what that is.
I've heard the term. I actually do not understand.
He's obsessed. He's obsessed that the Communist Party is going to collapse like the USSR, and he does not want that to happen. That's why he's doing all the. That's why the communist government is doing what it's doing right now.
Really?
There is actually a method to the madness.
Oh no, I can see the general track line. Obviously, I'm not going to see every turn on it, but yeah, no, I get it.
To be fair, there's been movements by the Chinese generation, by the younger generation, not to work and just do nothing because they don't have a future. They have to look after their side of the family without any government support or
I
anything.
hope it works out better than Tiananmen did.
Well, it's still being crushed. And when the celebration came around, they stopped all extreme sport events. Every sporting event they closed down.
Huh?
Yeah, when the 100th year anniversary rolled around, they closed every sporting event down.
See, this is exactly the time you would go out and celebrate your sports, and encourage people. And here, Xi Jinping is so worried about basically being Ceausescu'd that he shut him down.
Yep,
Um, Actually, I got to take that back. You would not be old enough to remember Ceausescu. Do you know? Are you
I've heard
familiar with what happened to him?
I've heard he's I heard he's still around.
You heard wrong.
Ah,
I remember I was a little bitty guy, 11 or 12 when this happened. Um, I'm watching cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, when they interrupt with breaking news that the Prime Minister of Romania has been executed. Um,
oh, I was thinking of
yeah,
someone else.
no. In 3 days, Romania went from a uh, totalitarian communist dictatorship to the dictator has been executed. The interim government is scrambling to figure out what they're going to do next to try to prevent the country from delving into open, outright civil war. Um, that was really bad. I even as a little guy, I understood this is very bad because the Russians are not going to tolerate this for a second. What's going to happen next? And then nothing happened next. It just kind of disappeared. But yeah, they convicted him of 5 or 6 crimes, showed him and his wife a suitable backstop, and then summarily executed him. And
Ah,
really, I say summarily because that was a show trial if ever there was one. Uh,
damn.
Especially for a national leader. Yeah, the way the French did Louis the 14th was had more integrity and honesty than the way Romania did Nikolai. It was pretty bad. Um, and add to that, I mean, they shot his wife too, which was a real sign of how much hate they had. So now here's Xi Jinping worried that the Chinese people are going to do the same thing to him
No,
because his predecessors had done it to the Emperor of China. Only worse.
he's more worried about the Communist Party as a whole. Well, his side of the Communist Party.
Hmm.
But due to all the water crises, the demographic bubble was forming, and the weak infrastructure, give it like a decade, maybe two. If a
Do you
if
think
a war
China's going to
doesn't
collapse in? Go ahead.
1 or 2 decades, maybe.
You think China's got tops 20 years to live?
Probably.
Wow,
It's
that's a dire prediction.
we just gotta wait until the next 2 to 3 years if this war actually kicks off. It's just more of a might happen, might not happen. I'm not saying it would collapse in 10 years. I think America has a better chance, probably. But
Uh,
we're living in
we're
a
in trouble
weird
too.
time right now.
You've been hanging out with Colonel Spurg again.
No,
This is almost exactly the sort of things he's been saying.
uh, no. I've been playing a Hearts of Iron 4 mod recently.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I'll talk to you
Okay,
about it
so
later.
um, okay, well, speculate for me. Um, Jinping loses control over his party, and his
Yes.
faction of the party loses control over the country. And or, I guess I should say. What replaces them?
Well, if history shows, it might not be replaced by one government. It might be replaced by multiple governments.
Ooh, very interesting. Where do you think the
Yes,
different
we might have a
different
warring
governments
states
play?
period or a warlord type situation.
Okay. Let's for the moment assume that they have an amicable breakup. Where do you think the lines between the new states would form, or how?
Uh, what do you mean by amicable breakup?
Okay. Um, Jinping goes away. The Chinese government falls apart just completely. Um, and now you have multiple states. China breaks up into from one country into multiple. Um, where do you think those lines are going to form?
Uh,
Just
they're probably gonna kill the shit out of each other to be the one nation.
all right. Well, assume for the sake of argument, if nothing else, that they don't have a civil war. That they all just say, you know what, um, we've been doing this for 1,000 years, but it hasn't been working out, and we want to be 5, 12, whatever separate countries. Um, what where do you think those lines would form? Because even if it does delve into civil war, even genocidal civil war, that's at least where it's going to start out, is a breakup along some sort of lines. You think it'll be regional or racial, or excuse me, ethnic, or what?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not super in deep into Chinese history and all that. You probably need to ask someone who is. I'm just more glancing through notes, historical notes, basically.
Well, it's a shame we don't have Colonel Spurgeon here. He would have an answer
Yeah.
faster than I finished the question. I love him to death, but let's be honest. Actually, he would be saying it for us if he were in here to defend himself. Um, yeah. Um, I'm thinking that it would break down into very very tribal, not just ethnic, but or racial, but very tribal. Like within the you Jaeger, help me out with the word. Can you pronounce the word for me, please?
Oh
Uyghurs?
god, this is Uyghurs, yeah, Uyghurs.
Uyghurs. Even within the Uyghurs, you would see basically two different camps that don't really hate each other as much as they don't like the Hans, who really, really hate the Chine, who don't get along too well with the Mandarin. But the Mandarin love the Taiwanese. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. Within the Mandarin, you see like 4 or 5 different sects that, yes, we're all Mandarin, but you Mandarins stay on your side of the line and we'll stay on our side of the line. And as long as nobody's shooting at you, we're not going to go shooting at them for you. Okay.
And you also
Somebody
got the
huh?
ah, and you also got, I hope I say this right, the Manchugos as well in
Yes.
north of China.
Actually, that's the people I referred to as the Han a few moments
Ah,
ago. So thank you for correcting me. Um, they became the Han dynasty. My bad. History major, and I always fail this part. Um,
okay.
so yeah, I can see it really breaking down. The territorial breakdowns would probably end up reflecting more or less the same. Like this city is primarily within uh, Manchu uh, predominant territory, so this will be part of the Manchu, which is very interesting because those were the Mongol invaders from the breakup of the not the Han Dynasty, the
You're talking about the Mongolian Empire, are you? Hope you are.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
thank goodness.
the Great Wall of China was built to keep the Manchu. I struggle with
The
pronunciations here.
Mongolians.
Thank you. Out. Um, it was the Han Emperor who died in a civil war, and a garrison commander along the Great Wall had to pick between a rebel army that was marching north to kill him, a Mongolian army that was uh, marching southeast-ish to kill him. He had to pick one or the other, so he chose to throw the gates open to the Mongolians, hoping that they would spare him and his family. I don't know how that worked out for him, really. Um, so
Wait,
yeah,
Give me a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would it be vice versa? I don't know too much of Chinese history, but would the rebel army go up south, or the Mongolians go down north?
The Mongolians, according
Oh,
to the chart,
they went around the wall. Okay.
no, no, no. There was a Mongol army coming. They were aiming southeastish. That was their track line. Now, why
Ah,
that's
okay,
their
I
track
get you
line,
now.
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to flank it or something. Maybe they knew that this garrison commander was friendly to them over the rebels. I don't know. I can't even begin to tell you. But
We need
uh,
someone who knows Chinese history because
not
we
that we
can't.
know anybody like that.
Yeah. Well, I know
Yeah,
two people like that, but that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting.
Colonel Spurg is the one I'm thinking of. Um,
I'm thinking of two dudes I know from a different server.
okay. Too
Yeah.
bad they're not here to defend themselves. Um,
Oh well.
oh dear. It appears we lost Troll for a while, and he's back now. And I think we may have lost Runner. Okay. Well, I'm going to speculate the end game that I'm going to throw out the end game that I foresee is that if Xi Jinping does lose control over China, it's going to break down actually into some degree, at least, of civil war. And it's going to be an ugly one because there's no such thing as a pretty civil war. Um, the only civil war that I know of that ended amicably was the Ethiopian Civil War, where at the end the country divided along a pretty clear borderline between what had been Ethiopia and in theory, um, and I can't pronounce the name properly, and I'm sorry. And those two factions said, okay, well, the the dictator is gone. We don't like you. You don't like us. Um, and let's just call it a day. Runner's back. Um, and that's the only one. Even Romania, when their dictator uh, was very summarily executed, they had a pretty ugly 6 month, year long uh, rebalancing period because the police were nowhere to be found. Okay, Runner.
Yeah.
Uh, I was just speculating how I think China's endgame plays out. Let's hear what you think. Xi Jinping loses control. The country has officially no national government. What happens next? Yeah, take us through at least the first week.
Oh god. This is gonna be. If somebody I know sees this and he hears what I fucking say, this is gonna be this is gonna be interesting. I'm
Wait,
prob
wait.
prob
Before you answer the question, are you sure you want to? You don't have
yeah,
to.
I'll answer it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, there's gonna be like a small period when they'll try to cover it up.
Okay.
Try to cover, try to cover it up. Then you see more and more people from different parts of China forming their own smaller governments, or say the Chinese government has failed. Well, more the party has failed, and create their own little communist parties.
Okay, so you think it'll stay communist?
stay. It will probably stay communist, but more in states with communism characteristic characteristics.
So you're looking at a true blue Chinese civil war scenario.
Most likely, or that somebody else will just go up and grab power. One of the two.
I have to admit that really terrifies me because the different factions then will have nuclear weapons at their disposal that other factions may or may not have. And the thing about race wars like that, you get your hands on a nuclear bomb, even if you don't want to, you're going to use it. It is as simple as that.
I'm just wondering if nuclear weapons are involved, how they're made in China. How are they going to be? Are they going to work properly? Or what exactly? That's the major question.
Um, you know, I'm one of those people. You tell me that so and so can't do it, and I tell you they will. Um, so yeah, I'm absolutely confident. Whoever gets those bombs is going. They will work. They will work the first time, and they will work within a 10-mile radius of exactly the way they were.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
when I heard the word nuclear weapons program in China, I was thinking about what happened the other month with the satellites.
What other month?
Probably not. Probably two
Did we
months
lose you
ago.
again? Yeah.
Nah, up. Um, my gears are turning a bit to remember.
Okay.
They shot up a rocket into space, but midway through it traveling to space, it blew up.
Okay. You got a fair point there.
Yeah.
The Chinese space program and rocket program in general uh, has never been spectacular. The World War II German rocket program was actually much better, and that's a terrible thing to say. It's a horrible thing to say. I'm not lying. Um, you don't need the rocket for the nuke to work. That's just to get it across an ocean. You load it into a flatbed truck and mark it, engine, truck engine, mark the box truck engine, drive it across the border, and put it on a suicide switch. That's all it takes.
Yeah, you could do
Especially if
that.
you have somebody who's, um, especially if you have somebody who's very willing to go there.
Or you just say, ah, or you just give it to some random civilian and say, hey, you gotta drive it here. You gotta take a
Yeah,
package here, and we'll give you a lot of money to do it.
yeah. That other than guaranteeing
Because
it detonates, that's a pretty good system.
because I don't think during a weird period, if this actually happens, I don't think people will be super willing to do things what might cause a lot of damage, but that's just me. But Bosnia, but everything what happened in the Balkan states probably dis probably disputes that a bit, but I really don't know anything too much about China, so it's
Well,
more
nobody
up in
knows
the air.
anything too much about China.
Yeah,
Nobody knows anything too much about China. They work very hard to keep it that way.
that's true.
The only place more secretive than that is North Korea, where they will literally shoot you if you take the wrong photograph.
Or take a poster.
Say again?
Or take a poster.
Or well, no, they just beat you.
Nah.
Or was that South Korea?
I remember
Anyway,
in a YouTube video I watched, somebody said that China's turned into North Korea, but with a larger budget.
that's a pretty good one. Um,
It's funny because
and
it's true.
it's funny because it's true. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
God damn it, Sheldon. Moving on.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Troll has said, I've always figured Japan would be the fuse, but Taiwan is setting up nicely, and India is definitely on the Chinese menu. Um, what do you think? You think the Japan or China trying to go to war with Japan or India might be the flashpoint for all of this?
China's probably gonna start war with Taiwan. India's gonna get involved because if Taiwan's gone, India has to deal with China saying the Indian Sea is historically ours, and and puts a flag in it.
Ooh,
To be fair, they've been doing
that
that already.
well, yes. Actually, they're trying to provoke Japan into a war by doing exactly that, building islands. What one of them's what was it? 100 miles off of the Japanese coast. Um, and
But
it's not even an island; it's a sandbar. All right, it's just a great big sandbar in the middle of the South China Sea. Um, they're trying to build it up like it's this really strong utile island. And oh yes, yes, this has territorially always been ours. To well, try to provoke Japan into opening fire, and very, very bluntly, to provoke Japan into shooting at their ships.
Japan will be pretty hard to invade due to their superior air and naval capability.
No, um, Japan basically does not have an air and naval capability. What they have is the U.S. Right behind them, glaring over Japan's shoulder, saying, "Are you sure you want to go there?" There's already been at least two
No,
confrontations.
they actually have a proper a naval and air capability. The it's
The
just their treaty they had with the
U.S.
US.
Yeah, they do. They have legitimate. Uh,
They
well,
actually
they
expanded it
have
a bit.
legitimate battle vessels. Are
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, they expanded it
Um,
like years ago.
for a first world power, um, the U.S. has more naval power in one battle fleet than the entire Japanese Navy. Um, and don't look at me to say that this is a good thing. I blame America. Um, but the Chinese Navy, if those two navies were to go, China and Japan were to go into an actual shooting war, I don't think it would last very long, and I don't think the outcome would be very good for Japan. And it's a really a high time we fixed that. Um,
To be fair,
it's yeah,
to be fair, you're kind of right about that, but China needs to China has been building their carrier gang, trying to build
Uh huh.
carriers, but because the carrier they had, well, I don't want to say have a carrier because the carrier is more like a car, that car you buy from that dude down the road what doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's one of those sort of things.
Didn't she catch fire last year?
Probably. I know.
Mm.
What I know about the carrier they got, it came from Russia. Russia sold it to Yemen. Then the Yemenis sold it to China.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
They didn't even buy it firsthand from Russia themselves. They bought it from Yemen first.
yeah, they bought it from the Middle East. So they bought a hand-me-down from a hand-me-down.
No, worse. Imagine that you could actually buy a new car, and a new there's a slightly used car from a guy who generally took care of his cars. He sold it to somebody doesn't take care of his cars. You bought it from that guy. I mean, oh my god. They could have bought it new from just new from Russia. No, no, no. We'll buy it from the Yemenis who are not going to take care of it. Oh my god.
You know how long they had that carrier for? Exactly. What will
I
really
didn't know
make you
they
laugh?
I didn't even know the Yemenis had it before, so please illuminate me.
They had that thing for 20 years. 20 to 30 years. And it still hasn't
Yemen
worked.
Yemen bought the ship from Russia.
Yes, they
Held on
bought the
to her for
carrier from
20
Russia.
years,
Yes.
and China bought it from them.
No, China bought the carrier from the Yemenis and they had it for 20
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
and 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 China has now had it for 20 years.
No, the Yemenis had it for 3 to 4, then sold it to China.
Okay, all right. So it's not quite as bad as I thought.
Still pretty
Um,
bad.
no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to catch up on the chat real quick. Um, Troll says, I think China has something like the Talon system, a tungsten coated hardened steel dart dropped from orbit. No radioactive fallout, no survivors. I was not aware that that was even a thing. Um, the closest I know of is an anti-missile defense that never got off the ground. Taiwan is the driveway to India. Also, was not aware of that. My geography is very off if I can't even see where Taiwan is in my head. Uh,
I know where
Japan
Taiwan
has
is.
American. Uh, Japan has American resources on a hair trigger. He's right about that. Especially right now. But even when I got out of the service, and that was 2014, and the world was a little different. Um, they were warning us that the next flashpoint was going to come in Asia somewhere, um, and all of us knew they meant that China was going to be the next one. Even though I was sitting there thinking, no, you guys are wasting your time watching China too much. Maybe you should be watching somebody in uh, the Middle East. Although I guess technically Iran is in China, or is in Asia, but um, so yeah, this is not troll. Unfortunately, this is not a secret. It's been going on now. I got out in 2014. That's 6, 7, coming up on 7 years. Um, and I've just kind of been waiting for the shoe to drop so we could see what happens next. Um, so, Runner,
Yes.
speculate, and speculate, but do an informed speculation. The next 6 months, what do you think the world is gonna look
Uh,
like?
well, the the tide is probably. I know China has one time of year, or probably two times a year, it could invade Taiwan. I don't know if it's passed or not, but they might invade this year, they might not.
So
Or
you think it's just going to be
China's
an
gonna,
open invasion of Taiwan?
or bombing campaign, like the Battle of Britain,
Okay.
or the Blitz.
Or the what?
The Blitz.
The Blitz. Okay.
Yeah.
You think that's going to be a flashpoint to a larger conflict between China and the U.S., Japan, possibly India, maybe even Russia? What do you think? Who do you think this is going to be a flashpoint, and with who? You there, Runner?
Rangers.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
you're breaking up. Ah, damn. We're coming up on the 2 hour mark. So, Troll says I'm thinking a second round of lockdowns. And I think China will move when it happens. Ooh, here we go. He's gonna try again.
alright, that's
All
good.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I look.
Before you
I popped
before
on.
you answer that
I popped on
question,
Web Radar, and the clouds are finally moving away.
before you answer my question, I'd like you to take a look at the chat there. Troll says, I'm thinking a second round of lockdowns, and I think China will move when it happens. U.S. might meet China. Yeah, skip that part. Um, what do you think happens? China invades Taiwan. What happens next?
I think I agree with Troll with the India becomes a battleground.
Ooh, I didn't even get that far. India is the real battleground. That's an interesting take because India is actually a Russian ally, and does not act really does not like the United States. They wouldn't declare war on the U.S., but they don't like us very much. Um, Pakistan, India's real enemy, is the ones that gets along for the most part with the United States. So that's a very interesting uh, end game, or at least mid game. I wish I still had my axes and allies. I'd love to chart that one out. Um, what do you think of the second round of lockdowns scenario?
Um, that makes sense. Hit them while they are dealing with their own internal struggles.
I cannot find a fault in that logic.
Oh, thank goodness!
Not a reasonable one. What?
I thought my internet crapped out again.
No.
Yeah.
Um, I can't find a fault with that logic. Well, not a reasonable one. Um, so yeah, that's and then turning India into the real battleground. with the idea of the U.S. entering that conflict on the side of India, when India is already really close with Russia. See, that's basically a declaration of war on Russia, really, because India is Russia's ally. So now, what are they going to do next? They're going to have an armed force come out of Russia right into China. Russia is not going to fuck around. You go invade India, Russia is going to invade you. That's been one of the uh, balancing points in that part of the world for all these years. Is U.S. is well, Pakistan and India have left each other alone for the most part. They make a big show of how much they hate each other, but they won't actually shoot at each other because they know the moment they do, the U.S. and Russia will end up getting involved, and neither side really wants that.
That is true. But you gotta remember, the Russian military is actually not that strong. And
You got a point there.
it's got a lot of old surplus equipment. It's just Russia since, oh god, I know a few ethnic Russians who live in the US. I hope I get this right. Uh, you, it's Russia's been mostly dealing with corruption since, I want to
Forever.
say, after uh, after Tsarist Russia fell, but I'm not too sure.
No, Russia's been dealing with corruption since the Romans pulled out.
Mm, probably.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't. I didn't know that. Wait, what do you mean by Romans?
The Kremlin. The
The Romanovs. Okay, got ya.
Yeah, no. Back up a little bit. The Kremlin.
Hey, your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
Good.
word the word Kremlin comes from actually a Latin word that means something to the effect of fortress,
Ah,
because the Romans built a fortress in that spot to police uh, the newest acquisition to their empire, and that really didn't last long compared to the Roman Empire as a whole. But the word Kremlin stayed in the Roman or the Russian language to this very day.
I didn't know Rome didn't. Are you talking about desert Eastern Rome?
No, no. This is before the Roman Empire split into the Eastern and Western empires. But yes, very good. You remembered a detail that I had forgotten. Um,
Yeah. I don't think they went that far into Europe, but I don't remember that much.
they did. This is actually before the Roman Empire converted to Christianity, which would have put it before the uh, split between the Eastern and Western empires. Um, the rise of the Christians may have been a thing by this point in history, but the Roman Empire was still very much the pagan empire when they went into the Rus territories, and they built a fortress, which the word or that kind of fortress was Krema, something like that. And the fact that the Roman or the, um, the rulers of Russia would stay mostly ensconced in that former Roman fortress is where the word Kremlin now comes from. It's the reason why that facility is still referred to as Kremlin to this day.
I hope you're. I'm a little iffy about that, but okay then. Because I don't remember Rome going that far into Europe. From.
It's also it's also how Russia became part of the Eastern Empire, Byzantine Empire.
I know they
When
had a
the
sphere of influence over Russia.
uh, Troll says, when China touches Africa, it will devour them. Africa has a tendency to devour everybody. Africa and Afghanistan have a tendency to devour everybody that invades. Um, and it is literally environmental. Um, Here's a pro tip: don't invade a country that your physiology is just not equipped for you to survive in. Um, Moving right along. Okay, so China invades Taiwan, um, drawing at least the U.S. into that conflict. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
Um, you seem to agree with Troll that the Chinese will then try to push into India, drawing Russia and the U.S. both probably into that conflict. Where does it go from there? What do you think?
Ah, Lord, I hope I. Uh, hmm. I'm not too sure.
Would it surprise you to learn that Russia, or China rather, was just caught trying to build a bunch of nuclear weapons silos?
It won't surprise me.
Personally, I think that they built something to look like a silo to try to scare the United States, but I also think it's possible that maybe they really did build a couple new silos with the intention of, of trying to threaten basically the U.S. Um, and the missiles may be understood to be aimed at Japan, but somebody posted a photo of my of Papa Kerry about a week ago in an attempt to intimidate me personally. And it's kind of the same thing. We'll build a couple of missiles aimed at Japan in order to get the U.S. to back off. Well, that didn't work out so well. Now,
Um,
I'll post a couple of pictures of Papa Kerry to get Mandy to back off. Yeah, that didn't work out so well for him either. Um, Scenario I actually see developing is either they do forcibly invade Taiwan and then it becomes just a flat out US Chinese war, or they finally do something to force Japan to shoot at them. Um, so officially it's a Japanese Chinese war, but the moment you drag Japan into a war, you have declared war on the United States. You don't get to go uh, smack our friend around like that and think that we're just going to sit on our ass. Um, and trolls calling it a proxy war. I don't think so. Um, I think their intention is to try to bait the U.S. really into the bigger war. Um, and the best way to do that would actually be to do something to get Japan into an active shooting war with China. And also see it mostly as a whole lot of bluff and bluster to try to get the U.S. to back off of what they're legitimately doing. They should be not doing. Um, we're going to go build out an island to intimidate Japan, and Japan saying, "Yeah, no, that's not going to do it. We're going to go fish their territorial waters. Yeah, that's not going to do it. We're going to this, we're going to that to try to bait bait Japan into a war, and sooner or later the U.S. gets somebody in the White House who's not going to roll over and play dead and tell China either back off with Japan or you going to find your island at the bottom of the ocean. Wait a minute, you can't sink an island. Hold my beer." Troll, that's been tried before. It didn't work last time. Uh, it's really as simple as that. They tried that once. It didn't work. And Japan or China will not come to North Korea's aid if they try it again. They have absolutely said this. Uh, we can sink an island, troll. That is that has happened. That's been done. And that was during the American Civil War too, which is just fucking insane. Hey, runner, how do you sink an island?
I don't know.
Well, first, the one group or another tries to build a fortress on a sandbar, and second, the other faction comes along and blows the fortress completely off of the island and takes like 3/4 of the sandbar with it when a shell hits the magazine. Most people don't know about that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was the American Civil War, not World War One, not World War Two. Uh, that was not Tsar Obama. No, that was the American Civil War, and it was a Confederate fortress down in Louisiana somewhere. And what's left of the sandbar today is actually just a hazard to navigation that if it's really high tide and you have a really low draft vessel, it's safe to go over that area. Otherwise, you have to steer clear of the sandbar. It's not. You will get. You will run aground. Thank you, Troll. It was Guano Island in the Gulf, and it had a fort. Okay, so at least I know the island name to watch for. Um, now we have B-52s. What do you think we're going to do to those Chinese islands this time?
Uh, Sink the shit out of them?
Yeah, no, we're going to turn that island into a crater.
Ah,
One
got ya.
um, one conventional bomb out of a B-52 today is more ordnance than was in the entire uh, bombing of Guano Island. Yeah. Um, so yeah, by the time the strike is done, there will be a crater at the bottom of the ocean and not a sandbar reaching up to the top. Um, Unfortunately, what we have right now is Joe Biden instead of a president. I'm going to get this.
Oh, good old Joe Biden.
I'm going to get this stream deleted anyway. I might as well go out with a bang, right?
Yep.
Um. So yeah, Joe's not going to do shit about it. And then in about 2.5 months, when Nevada and Georgia are done with certain interesting legal uh, actions going on there, and Joe has to resign for health reasons. We'll see what happens then. And yeah, Japan's military is almost in name only. And that is the fault of the US and the US alone. I know they have some F 35s. Excuse me, I believe they were supposed to get some F 35s under the Barack regime. But I mean, China's Navy alone it will be enough to take on basically the entire Japanese armed forces. And until the US finally wakes up and understands the fact that Japan's really in the bullseye, not much is going to change there. Nothing's going to finally wake us up until China tries something with Japan, and we have to send a third carrier task force, a battle force, excuse me, across the Pacific to finally end the thing. And then all of a sudden, oh wow, we could let Japan rebuild their air force and army at very least.
Okay.
When China has actually struck and damaged a Nimitz class carrier is when we'll finally say, "Oh, I guess that was a bad idea, wasn't it?" Oh, give me a second. I have a thing that is going on separately. That was important, but it has to wait. Uh, hmm. Troll's got an interesting point. We'll probably be operating from Sri Lanka. I didn't know we had bases there. And the Aleutians, I know we do have bases there. And Diego Garcia. That's the main B-52 base for that part of the world. Um, we've actually gone a little over 2 hours.
Oh shit.
Anything else? Yeah. Oh, yes. Um, let's move past the China-U.S. really war. Anything else going on that you'd like to touch on?
Nothing really new.
Okay. Um, let's talk China's economy right now. Every war ends when the warring nation's economy collapses. That has been true each and every time that, well, excuse me, all but one time. That has been the truth. What do you think? How long can China's economy really maintain a war?
Probably not very long.
Decade?
Mm, probably half that.
You think they could hold on to a war with the United States really for 5 years?
Uh, they got the manpower, but I don't know how strong the manpower is going to be.
The U.S. had the manpower to fight Vietnam for another 30 years. Uh, it was the economic wherewithal because you got to buy the gun. At very least, you've got to buy the gun, even if you can make somebody's got to make the gun somehow. Even if you can make the man fight, you got to get the gun somehow. Um, you think they can hold on to that for the 5 years?
I don't know where China's AKs went. Well, I know they went to Africa, but that's a completely different thing. But I don't know how well Chinese bull pumps will do
Chinese
in a
what?
real war. The Chinese bull pumps,
Bull pups?
yeah.
Okay, I did hear you correctly.
Yeah, the Chinese
Um,
have bull pumps. Bull pumps are not amazing.
I'm sorry. Say again. You broke up.
Bull pumps are not that amazing of a rifle design.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very familiar with bull. Bullpup is where the trigger is ahead of the action and usually ahead of the magazine. Um, the Steyr, the SA-80, that entire family, the entire SA-80 family.
Stars are
Um,
pretty good. I can
oh,
give bull
yes.
pumps that part.
Uh,
It's not because Australia uses stars.
you guys use Steyrs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, you didn't know that?
No, I thought you guys were on the SA-80 family.
No, we use a form of style.
Okay. All right. Um, and yes, um, as Troll said, it's first of all, it's pronounced bull pup.
Bull pup.
Um,
Okay.
yes. Um, and as Troll puts it, they're no better or worse. It's just a different style of gun. They are much more. There's been a lot of trouble with developing bull pups because something mechanical something just there seems to be a lot more trouble making them work. Uh, and if you don't believe me, ask anybody that served in the British Army in Desert Storm. um, but once you get those problems fixed, they turn out pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so the Chinese, you think, have the economy to hold on for 5 years onto this war with the United States?
Yeah, they probably the only way I see them surviving way longer is if they somehow from other nations they would just do they would just smuggle weapons into China, smuggle AKs and other equipment.
Yeah, I don't see too many people rushing to China's aid. Um, maybe black market, because there's a huge, ginormous. Oh my God, you're fucking kidding me! Black market in Russia.
Yeah, in Chechnya.
No, 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 not just Chechnya. Throughout Russia. Back in the '90s, a sting operation run by FBI was trying to catch gun smugglers out of Russia. And one day, one of the FBI agents said something crazy about, "Could you get us a submarine?" And the Russian contact uh, said, he's black marketeer. He's not undercover or a snitch or anything like that. But he said, "I don't know. I'll see." And the Russian contact called him back a couple days later and said, "With or without missiles." I'm not even. I'm not joking.
That makes
Um,
sense.
and I'm not laughing either because that's a very, very scary proposition. Even just to have to ask the question, that's pretty. That's terrifying. Um, even Tarzan himself was pretty shocked to get that answer.
I heard
Uh, uh,
you could get a nuke for like a few $1 million. You just gotta figure out where to put the thing.
uh, it's gotten better since then, but yeah, what was it about 5 or 6 years ago? A sting operation. They got a few ounces of weapons grade plutonium from Russia, and it was a
Yeah,
smashed up pellet of a bomb. Uh, so it wasn't usable in any real sense of the word, but somebody got that. That's a bad sign.
mm,
Oh, and apparently yellow cake is much easier to get. Of course, yellow cake you could actually get in the U.S., but getting it legally requires a whole lot more. Unless I'm confused about the types of plutonium, getting it legally is much more difficult and much smaller quantities, much lower quality. I'm actually worried about Chinese nukes sneaking out of the country, ironically enough. Um, Especially if China goes down the economic black hole that they're kind of skidding into um,
that wouldn't be
and
surprising.
have been. Oh, um, it's not like it's a big thing to make disappear. Uh, Troll is pointing out that a Boy Scout built a breeder reactor in his garage. Um, it was not a breeder reactor; it was a nuclear power reactor, um, and it doesn't take as much as it sounds to turn that into a very bad problem for somebody.
Yeah,
And by the way, he's right. That did happen. At the time, at least, there was a merit badge. Well, it was nuclear power merit badge, and that's the only reason he did it. Um, and everybody involved should have known better. Didn't think for a moment that this kid could be serious about building a nuclear reactor in his parents' garden shed. But when they realized
no,
what was
he
really
built
going
it
on,
in a barn from memory.
yes, close enough.
Yeah,
And when they realized what was going on, this is during the Clinton administration, they sent in a nest team thinking that it was an actual nuclear bomb, which
as you
it could have
do.
turned into, um, which is what it could have turned into to disassemble it. He actually ran off and joined the Navy and then died of alcohol poisoning at the ripe old age of 27. Yeah, it was actually a pretty sad story.
Yeah.
No, he was not starting a breeder reactor. It was a nuclear power reactor. Um, the problem is that the nuclear power reactor that blew up in North Dakota was probably much more stable. That's not good. It's
Ooh,
actually a very
that's
bad
scary.
sign. Yeah. Um, and that was a difference of a half an inch of rod pull, which has been debated. Was it a suicide? Was it a homicide? Was it an accident due to the rod sticking? Um, no, nobody really knows, but I do know that there's a fence 100 feet beyond the complex that if you cross that fence, you will die.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah, it's still considered basically an active, slow burning nuclear bomb. Don't cross that fence. Uh, okay, so yeah. You, uh, play pretend with me for a minute. Um, China's economy, very very important subject to me actually because that's where everything will begin or end. Next 6 months, where do you think it goes?
Um.
China's already they're already in some economic trouble. Where do you think it's going to go from here?
Lord. Probably. Maybe. Uh. Most likely selling selling their nuclear arms to get a few weapons, probably to
Whoa!
someone,
To, to who?
to anyone.
Oh, are we talking real black market backroom nuclear sales, or are we talking at least semi sophisticated like Iran or Russia or
Fucking
India?
anyone who wants a nuclear weapon, if they're
Really? So
desperate enough.
they might just sell a nuclear bomb to FARC.
Don't know who that is.
Um, South American narco terrorists.
Probably. I don't know what I don't know China would do.
Whoa!
It's just a thing I just threw out there. China
Wow!
has China has done some crazy shit. It wouldn't pass me if they did something like that.
Wow! That is particularly scary because the connections between FARC and ISIS, FARC and Iran, really, um, they are they are very they are on speaking terms. Um, and if China would be willing to sell a nuke to FARC, selling it to Iran is not even a thing. That's like we'll give it to you as long as it doesn't show up in our backyard again. God, Iran with a nuclear bomb. I don't. I cannot think of anybody I would trust less. I would trust FARC with a nuclear bomb before I would trust Iran with a nuclear bomb.
Mm,
No, I'm not even joking here. At least FARC wants money. Um,
that's true.
First and foremost. Um, I might trust the Mexican cartels less than Iran, but not really that much. Cartels still want money. Nuking Mexico City is not a good way to get money. Um, so yeah, that's pretty scary. Okay, we're at 2.5 hours. I need to pee,
Ah,
so I think we need to kind of wrap this up a little bit. You got any last words before I go into today's lesson?
nothing really.
Okay, all right. Really, you don't want to use the line?
That's all, folks.
No, don't trust China. China is asshole.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I really thought that was gonna. I thought you were gonna do that. All
I
right.
am
Uh
quite cooked right now. I am running on
oh.
fumes.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Runner, you can hang around for a moment if you want, but
Yeah, I will.
I have to. I have to stop that screen and share a different one. And once I get it open, um, Windows. There we go. Share. Is it up? There we go. All right. So every week I read a section of Dataslav. This is the second half of Title 6, Other Provisions, Section 11. Um, Section 11 was just too big to do it all last week. So, Section 11, supplemental provisions may issue and good cause ordinances are hereby expressly forbade. Concealed carry permits may only be denied for due cause, and such permits shall be processed within 14 days. Any such request not processed within said time frame shall be conditionally approved, and any permit not processed in 30 days shall be unconditionally approved. Okay, this is kind of going back over some old territory. This is to put pressure on the states to actually process those concealed carry permits. They have 14 days, and if they can get it done in the 14 days, and something goes wrong, um, or if they can't get it done in the 14 days and something goes wrong, they can still get it back. But if they don't get it done in 30 days, state of New York, state of New Jersey, you're shit out of luck. You're going to have to deal with a convicted felon walking around with a concealed carry permit. It's that simple. And it is your problem. It is your fault. The federal government may not impose new restrictions on any weapon or part thereof not already established as law, to wit, the registration of firearms as provided under this amendment. All firearms may be required to be registered except those that are built by the original owner. Okay, goes over some already trod territory as well. Um, we can't create any new bans. Someday James Kirk's phaser is going to be the common firearm in public use. And we can't say, well, that was never envisioned by the founders, so it's automatically banned. No, it's not. And it's not because it says right there, no, that can't be done. The only thing that they can uh, put any kind of restrictions on is automatic and continuous feed, assault weapons and machine guns, and explosive and incendiary. I mean, it's literally listed, and I think that's part 3 or title 3 rather. Um, all firearms may be required to be registered except those that are built by the original owner. Remember, this previous sentence actually says that feds cannot ban home builds. If you buy it, you may have to register it, but that's not a big deal. And for those of you that say registration leads to confiscation, this next section will be of great interest to you, but Short version is it won't lead to a confiscation if you're legally required to actually have it on you. Never mind, own it. Now the registration is just a piece of paper you don't give a shit about. And here we go into the last section. Every home shall have at least one long arm compatible with Department of Defense standardized infantry rifle munitions and magazines, and 2 such magazines of a minimum of 30 rounds capacity and 91 rounds. This used to read a little bit differently related to STANAG. Apparently I have updated this, so that's nice. But short version is you have to have a long arm. You have to own a long arm that's compatible with whatever the Army is actually using. So right now it would be a 5.56 chambered rifle with and using magazines that are compatible with M16s. Congratulations, leftists! You lost a big one here, didn't you? Every home would have to have an AR-15. Short version. You could get around it by having an SA-80 as long as it's a post-Krupp rebuild. You could get around it with Runner, since you're on. Is the Steyr compatible with standard NATO magazines?
Don't think so.
No. Sorry about that, guys. Steyr will not cut it. You could have a Mini 14. That'll work as long as it's 5.56. Oh yeah, by the way, and you're also required to have 2 magazines of 30 rounds each, and enough ammo to fill both of those, plus refill 1, plus chamber a round. You can exceed these standards. You cannot go below these standards. Oh no! That's going to piss off a lot of leftists. So if confiscation leads to registration and you're legally required by the Constitution to actually own that gun, as much as the Constitution requires you to own, well, actually, there's nowhere else the Constitution requires you to own anything. So, I mean, you can't go out to the mall without pants on. Depending on where you live, you could go into the mall without a shirt on or a bra for ladies. You're not legally required, or you are legally required to have pants on, or shorts, let's say. And now you're legally required to have a gun because the very Constitution says it. I'm going to lead into that last little bit of. For those that have been saying that Datislav is unconstitutional, it's a constitutional amendment, you twats. What part of that did you just not want to pretend not to want to understand? Oh, that would be unconstitutional. Really? Did you read it? Oh, yeah, I read it. Yeah. That part about it being a constitutional amendment, did you not read that part? And I know that twat is in the chat somewhere. Well, he's watching it somewhere. Oh, troll. Sorry. Right, I'm going to close that for now. And I'm going to put the chat back up for just a second because we're going to wrap it up here. Oh, there it is. Just in case there's any last questions. Okay. So, troll, yes, it does have to be U.S. infantry under the U.S. law. Because there's nothing else in the world that quite has this analog. Although the 2 closest contenders are Israel and Switzerland, which are de jure and de facto, respectively, mandatory carry nations. And okay, troll, I get it. It's been over 2 hours, and you stuck with it pretty close. Uh, Runner, you got any final comments?
Nothing else.
Okay. Do you want to uh, make a shout out for a channel or anything else?
No, not really.
No, not really. What about Karn? You're just going to forget Karn?
Oh yeah, go to. To be fair, I think your two audiences overlap a lot. But yeah, shout out to Connell.
That would be the Carnal Conservative, YouTube and Twitter, and he's also on Gab. Did not know that. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, uh, don't trust China, Runner.
Yeah, don't trust China.
China is asshole. Even if my theory about Iran and Corona is correct, don't trust China. China is legitimately asshole. And keep calm and mandatory carry on. And hi, Deej. I will read it in a minute. Okay, guys, that's got to be a wrap.